So I would be remiss if I didn't start off by acknowledging the incredible work that you and the executive team have done these past few weeks in preparing the company to face the monumental challenges posed by the coronavirus. The messaging, the communication, the resources that you've made available to us to effectively communicate with our teams and support our clients has been tremendous. And I know that didn't just happen overnight. You've been spearheading the onboarding of several vital technologies and platforms for several years now that has really positioned us and our clients favorably in order to handle an unpredictable event such as this. But before I go any further, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do here.
Sure. So I've had a pretty interesting career at Studley, which was the predecessor to Savills in North America. And over the course and arc of that career, I've been a market researcher, financial analyst, commercial real estate broker, tenant rep broker, went back, got an MBA in finance, and led our post-merger integration after we sold to Savills in 2014. Always been passionate about technology, always been probably like first adopter, early adopter, just tinkering, wanting to play with new toys, learn how to incorporate them into my workflow, make myself more efficient, make my clients more efficient. And that was a theme as I was, going through each one of those phases in my career, and really helped me accelerate growth across the business, and eventually ended up having a conversation with our global CEO back in 2017 now. He said, if you were me, what would keep you awake at night? I said, our technology and digital strategy, because I felt like we're in the world's largest real estate, or largest asset class by dollar value, real estate is. And cost of equity capital has been historically low. There was a lot of new ventures that were kind of coming after our space. And I thought, we really need to focus on this. And he said, okay, you know what, why don't you take on that challenge? And I stepped into CIO role about little over 2 years ago. So it's been a really interesting journey.
So I can only imagine the planning that went on behind the scenes and the pressure that you must have been under personally as head of client technology to make sure that our company and our clients were set up appropriately to handle the situation. Let's start back in late February, early March, when it became apparent that we would be working from home indefinitely. Take me through those early strategic planning stages and how that plan has evolved to where we are today in mid-April.
Yeah, so look, I've never been through anything like this. I don't think anybody really has, right, in our generation. And really, I mean, since like 1918 flu, I don't know that there's been anything like this that the world's grappled with. So you can't really anticipate something like this. It's almost like the perfect black swan event in some ways. What you can do when you're running a team, and you probably do this with your team, is you can make sure that you're communicating all the time, that you're practicing for the various different situations that you're going to encounter. And coming into this year, we had a great roadmap for what we were going to roll out to the business. We made a lot of progress on that roadmap last year. We invested in tools that are mobile first. We invested in cloud-based infrastructure, a lot of sort of modernization of the platform in 2019. And I guess you could call that kind of lucky timing in some ways. And then we also make sure as a team that we go through a lot of business continuity planning. So whether it's a terrorist event, potential terrorist event, or some sort of cataclysmic weather event, we're always sort of thinking about redundancy and how we can keep the business running in a variety of different complicated situations. So when we flip the switch on now what's become infamous, Friday the 13th of March of 2020, and made everybody go remote, we were ready to go, and the team's done an amazing job. So, I mean, the other key takeaway is hire good people. Good people are better than bad people. And I've got fantastic people around me to support that part of the platform. And I think it's just been, frankly, it's been an awesome accolade to them and a feather in their cap that they've been able to support folks like yourself as they get set up in a remote environment and make sure that the experience is seamless.
So Every company is facing its own unique challenges in light of the coronavirus, but what are some of the common ones that you've been seeing from a technology perspective and the solutions that we've been offering to address them?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, at its core, right, your people need the technical hardware to actually be able to function in a remote environment. So that's actually a constraint. I mean, and even as they go potentially back into the workplace, some of the learned behaviors that are actually driving productivity across the business will want to continue when we're back in the more traditional medium. So if they don't have, the ability to show themselves on a monitor vis-a-vis a Zoom or a webcast, I mean, that's something that your workers need in this environment, right? So just making sure that they have the right hardware is an issue for some folks. And I know that I've talked to other CIOs across companies that didn't quite have the infrastructure that we had. So that's a real challenge, getting that out to the key revenue producers or client-facing part of the business. And then I think what's been really interesting, maybe not total answer to your question, or complete answer to your question, but what's been really interesting to me is watching people go through, like even the most recalcitrant adopters have been forced to go through a learning curve around some tools that they probably never really thought they were going to have to use in their career. So the first week that we were in remote work environment, like people were still struggling to get on these types of calls and saying, well, I don't know if the tool's working. It's not the tool that's not working, it's just learning how to use it. I don't have any of those complaints anymore. So just making sure that you have the right support team, that they're trained, they know how to tell John Glass, how to put a virtual background up, or how to, make sure that he's got good lighting in his when he's set up on these types of conversations. I mean, that's really helpful. Just having good people, again, good people, good tools.
Recalcitrant. That's a word that I'm going to store away in the old brain there. So
you can take it.
we're in the information business, right? I mean, it's our role as tenant advisors to provide our clients with all the facts, data, and information available to them to help them make an informed real estate decision that best supports their business. And being connected both internally with our colleagues and externally with our clients and the greater marketplace is vital for that flow of information. And one of the tools that you've helped build is an internal CRM communication system that's enabled the flow of that information in ways we haven't seen before at Savills, which has been especially critical during this work from home period. Tell us about the importance of this connectivity and how that's evolved.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it's another part of the platform that we've watched people adopt in this environment, which is incredibly powerful at scale because we are in an information business, and we're also uniquely positioned as a company to be able to share information in a very different way than some of our competitors because we all focus on the tenant and the occupier, right? So even how we share information in our CRM system is fundamentally different than how some of our bigger competitors share because I can post something that, I don't have to worry about like an asset manager or a leasing agent potentially seeing and opportunistically taking or, taking advantage of my client around. So that's really a powerful attribute that we wanted to feature through the CRM rollout. What I also, think is interesting about that is like growing up in the business, I kind of know what I know what I would want if I were running my brokerage arm off of that part of the platform. So really just being intimate with kind of what your end users' expectations are, the different problems that they're going to face, and ultimately trying to make it as easy as possible for them to access it in a mobile environment, access it quickly, and be able to do something that's, transformative in terms of interpreting it or providing advice to their clients. Like to me, that's the crux of the problem that we're trying to solve with those types of tools. So I think being close to the end user is key, and leveraging like your unique traits as an organization to really drive that crowdsourced information advantage has been key there. And then this remote environment has just sort of activated it in a different way because it's clearly a tool that is very helpful when you're not physically on site in the office.
Yep. I read in a BizNow report yesterday that global venture capital investment in real estate technology companies reached a record high of $31.5 billion in 2019, which was over a 200% increase from the previous year. despite the uptick, I think you would agree that commercial real estate, by and large, has been slow to adopt new revolutionary technologies. You've certainly changed that here at Savills, but do you think the effects of COVID-19 will force companies and the commercial real estate industry as a whole to be more willing to embrace new technologies and at a faster pace?
Yes, certain technologies. I think certain technologies. I think it's a layered question that you're asking, and if we unpack it, right, I'll give you the experience. I mean, Zoom has become like a term that everybody's Zooming right now, right? That company came to market with a tool that just works and it's easy and it's benefited our users. They've had some security sort of PR stuff that they've gone through, but I think they've handled it pretty well. So a tool like Zoom forever, from my perspective, will be embedded in our workflow as a brokerage industry, right? Like, one of the great things about the last 4 weeks is there have been a ton of meetings across offices, teams, and at our management layer that didn't necessarily happen as consistently when we were all back in the office. And I don't think we're going to want to lose that. I think this is a pretty powerful medium, and people are learning how to do it. They're learning how to have good, productive meetings through this medium. So to me, that's not going to go away, and that's been accelerated by the COVID experience that we're all going through. I think there's, when you look at the amount of VC capital that was raised around prop tech, I think in my world, like the way I think about it, we're sort of in this like what I would almost describe as like the 2000, 2001 era of prop tech, right? Like, when I graduated from college, I graduated in 2001, it was the dot-com implosion, but really all of the ideas that were embedded in those companies, they still came, like they came to life in 2008 and 2009 when the iPhone dropped. And I think we're in like a similar situation with prop tech. I think there's going to be a ton of distressed VC invested prop tech companies that are just going to go bust. But I think at the core of kind of what they were trying to do, there's merit, and like we will see those technologies embedded in real estate. But it's probably, I think actually COVID and the market conditions have kind of pushed out the reality of like when we're going to see that truly embedded in our workflow. Like, I think it's probably slid it out a little bit further because it's just not going to be the main priority for corporate budgets at this point, in a sort of downturn economy.
So among the most hyped prop techs right now is virtual reality companies offering 3D tours to give users the experience of touring space without having to do so in person. I mean,
yeah.
Do you see that? I mean, without cherry picking a couple prop techs over one another, but that's one that I think could actually have some merit. And it's already been taking place in terms of Matterport and some of the 3D technologies and ways that you can interact with space. But what other prop tech ones do you see, if you are to pick some, that would really be impactful?
Well, I think the VR AR thing is pretty interesting. I mean, we have Matterport as a strategic partner. We use them in our tech stack around our client data platform, and it's a very powerful, interactive way to sort of get a sense of what workplace trade-offs are, right? Open configuration, closed configuration. You can do some measurements in the Matterport scans, which is pretty interesting, especially in light of thinking about putting people back into workspaces and physical proximity buffers that you may have to have, and kind of what the implications are in terms of seat utilization or achieve density in terms of your workforce. So I think it's very powerful tools. I respect the teams that have developed those platforms, and obviously we partner with them. I think there's kind of like, it's been spun a little bit in today's environment as to like, okay, well, now's the opportunity for the commercial real estate sector to like virtually transact. And I'm not totally there. I just don't see it. I mean, I know I've seen some of our competitors come out with some hokey graphics about, what their virtual transaction platform looks like. But I think we're a little bit further away from that reality than people would probably tell you at those competitors. I actually think when you look at the residential space, there's a lot of capital, and there's a lot of really powerful, interesting ideas around how to get consumers to make what we perceive to be psychologically a very personal decision around purchase, right? Like buying a home. There's nothing more intimate than your home. And how do they sort of relieve all the concerns with partnerships? I think they're further ahead. I think the residential sector is actually further ahead. And then in the commercial sector, the one that was closest was really the co-working sector, right? Like the co-working providers were essentially giving you the ability to make a digital purchase. You knew what the product was going to look and feel like. Like if I go to a WeWork in New York, I know it's generally going to be similar to the WeWork in DC. Like that's commoditizing in some ways and making it like an apples to apples comparison. And I can buy a membership subscription to it. So like they were probably closest, but I think they're going to be highly distressed in this environment for a bunch of different reasons. So I'm not totally sold that like any of the major asset investors, institutional investors, or any of our competitors are that close to like a more of what I would describe as like our clients' purchase process or customer experience process and taking that and making it totally digital. Parts of it can definitely be digital, like doing virtual tours. I think it can be effective to go from like a long list to a short list, but I'm still probably going to want to physically visit that site before I make a long-term commitment, which involves millions of dollars and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars when you factor in the labor force.
So that's a great segue, because the virtual transactions, I mean, real estate by its very definition is real and tangible. It's always been a human-centric industry that you see, touch, and feel. But COVID-19 is bringing into question the very way that we've traditionally interacted with one another. Do you think that the human element of commercial real estate advisory services and the way the end user views real estate, you just touched on it a little bit, but really how will the role of the commercial real estate advisor be impacted in light of this and perhaps over time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, I like to say that the expectation gap between what clients really want from us and what's possible is vanishing very quickly due to technology. So I think, clients are expecting John Glass to bring the best data in real time to help, create solutions, drive strategy, and inform where opportunities exist across their portfolios. I think from my perspective, this is just my personal opinion, I think when you're making really big, challenging, difficult, complicated, global, capital-intensive decisions, the concept that a robot or a widget's going to give you a recommendation, you're just going to do it, it doesn't really work that way, right? Like I have to stand up in front of an investment committee, I have to stand up in front of a management committee, I have to make recommendations, I have to go through a vetting process. I have to get my business unit leadership on board, make sure that they're comfortable with our strategy. So having like a personal interaction with somebody who you trust, who's been through that process before and has seen the trade-offs of the questions and kind of can help you look smart and navigate that, which is clearly going to be really important to your career as you're the internal person trying to effectuate that outcome. I think that's a really valuable attribute that isn't going to go away anytime soon. I just think the expectations around the tools that you're bringing to the table and like how you inform me and how you drive that strategy, I think that's what's shifted dramatically in the last 10 years from my perspective.
Well, that is certainly a relief. As you're telling me, I still am going to have a job going into the future, because I don't know how much longer I can do this online reporting. I certainly don't have anything on Lester Holt, but those are all interesting perspectives. And that's 5. Actually, I threw you a bonus question. That's 6 questions right now. I really appreciate it. I know how busy of a guy you are. And thank you again for all the support that you provided us. You and your team have been absolute all-stars in terms of providing support to people like me and our clients. So thanks, Patrick. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Good to be working with you.
Take care, buddy. Talk soon.
All right. See ya.